This video is to show you how to build the eye tracking demo for the HoloLens 2 that comes with the mixed reality toolkit. The reason I'm using that scene specifically is because it has a minor change that is different from the HoloLens 1, whereas the hand tracking doesn't really require anything special to work, it just kind of works. But the eye tracking requires one extra step. So I figured I would use that, and I didn't see any other tutorials on YouTube, so why not? That's a great title right there. But I'm using 2018 because the HoloLens documentation online says that 2018 should work best, and that seems to be what they actually built the MRTK for. And they warn us of some bugs in 2019 that I didn't really want to deal with. I tried building in 2019 and I actually did run into weird bugs, so I'm just using 2018 because that seems to be the stable option. If you need to use something that uses 2019, like, I don't know, the newer version of Euphoria or something, you can still use it, but I guess be aware of those bugs that they warn you about. So anyway, I'm gonna make a 2018 project. I call it HoloLens 2 tracking. I already did this before, but well, I have a bunch of random Unity test scenes. By the way, Unity opened it on a different screen, and it's showing the loading bar that's initially. While this is working, I tried recording this before, and what happened was, actually this project just straight up disappeared on me. There was a project called HoloLens 2 eye tracking, and I made it in this version of Unity, and for some reason, Unity just straight up did not want to compile it at all. It was trying to load as some kind of server, and then it just gave up, and I had to restart Unity Hub, and when I did that, it said, the project showed up, it was called HoloLens 2 eye tracking, and the Unity version said, version unavailable, even though I had 2018 selected here. So I don't know what broke, but who knows why things break in Unity. So here is the basic project, and the very first thing you want to do to avoid having to do this later is switch to UWP, which is for both HoloLens versions. And the reason that we're doing this first is because if you import all the stuff that we need to import and then you switch it, it'll go through the entire compilation process for all of that stuff again, because Unity's multi-platform solution is idiotic and they recompile all of the assets for each individual platform. So switch to UWP first so you don't have to deal with this. You don't need to change any of these settings ever, as far as I can tell. The website warns you that you should have this exact, at least this exact version of the platform, which I guess is the earliest platform that they had HoloLens 2 support, or something like that. Keep this as latest installed. I think this was actually the one that they warned you should have. This one maybe didn't matter. In any case, I just didn't change anything. So I switched platform. You can tell which platform you're on because the Unity logo will show up next to it. And it'll also turn into Windows here. And now we need to import stuff. So the MRTK on the website and on the GitHub repo comes with a couple of packages that you're supposed to import. So let's see. I had out of here these Unity packages. There are 4 of them that you should import, and you're supposed to import them in this exact order. First, you import Foundation. And by the way, these are the loading screens that you would have to go through again if you decided to switch platform after importing all this stuff. All of these, and if you're working on like a laptop or something, this process already takes forever, so you don't want to go through it twice. One second. Alright, so then you import everything. This one is, this package is the only one that takes a little bit of time. The other ones import pretty quickly. Because I guess the foundation package comes with all of the code that actually matters, and the rest of the stuff, the rest of the packages are mostly just examples and extra features. I'm not even sure how necessary they are. After this is done, it will show an MRTK window that will ask you to enable some options, and you just enable them. Basically it. So you don't, for the HoloLens 1 and the old version of MRTK, or if you used Toolkit, you had to go through all the player settings and enable certain things yourself. But now the MRTK just does it for you. Cool. Yeah, so this is the window, and the only thing that you need to change here is audio spatial. I guess on when you're in regular PC mode, it shows Holo or Microsoft HRTF. That I guess it's not. You're in UWP. It doesn't really matter. Resonance would actually probably on the HoloLens. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but not important right now. All right, so that part that's done importing. Got a couple of surprise loading screens for me. Great. That was something. I guess it's done. Nope, nope, still got. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Just gonna move on. Or it's surprising me again. Next one is extensions. Import everything. I don't know why that MRTK window keeps popping up. This one imported pretty quickly. This time I actually expected this to happen, but nothing changed, so you can just close it. Then you're supposed to import examples. Import everything again. The examples category is pretty well organized, so they have a folder for hand tracking examples and eye tracking examples if you want to try out both of them. The eye tracking example has a visualization of the hand mesh already, so by building the eye tracking project, you actually know whether or not the hand tracking is working. But like I said, it doesn't really take any effort to get the hand tracking to work, it just does. Remember, one thing that confused a lot of people in the HoloLens 1 development process was in this category below this one where you enable capabilities, you needed to you need to select, I don't remember what it was called, spatial perception or something, but MRTK does it for you. Once upon a time, people forgot to do this all the time, and they were really confused why their Unity app was showing up as a window, spatial perception. Then you can import the last one, which is tools. They said that this one is optional, so I don't know what it actually does. But I mean, files don't seem super important, but it's a really small package import file, so not really any harm in importing it. And still nothing changed. Okay, so I'm gonna check holographic here in the player settings. I'll do that later because this window is showing up for me because I had this open before, but that might not be the first thing that shows up for you. So anyway, I'll do that in the next step. We're going to open up the eye tracking examples. So in MRTK examples, demos, eye tracking, there's a scenes folder, and this has the scenes that you need. So it has a couple of scenes, and the root scene is the one that includes a menu that lets you navigate between all the other scenes. But you need to import them or you need to add them in a certain order, as we'll see in a second. When you try to open up the scene, it'll complain that Text Mesh Pro is not there, which is true, so you can do import Text Mesh Pro. You don't need any of these samples or extras. And we'll show you this. I'm gonna just disable this big visualizer word because when you build this project and look at it, or when you open this project on the HoloLens, the visualizer word is just so big, it takes up your entire field of view. Or not even, like, you can barely see it even if you look around, because it's gigantic. Anyway, so that was that. Now we need to build it. Get this wrong. So these scenes were not here before in build settings. It added them, but the order that it adds them is almost entirely arbitrary. In fact, I don't even know why it bothers adding them, because if you look through this, you'll notice that like things that should be right next to each other, like the hand tracking examples, are not. And also there are a lot of missing scenes, as we'll see in a second. So I don't even know why it imported these, but just uncheck them all for now. And add all the eye tracking scenes. Some of them are here already, so you can check them all, but they're not in the right order. And the order in this list of scenes actually matters in Unity. So root scene needs to be first, then number 1 has to be second, and then they have to be in here on out. And that's basically it. Now we can compile. Let me show you project settings quickly. If you click player settings, or if you go to edit project settings, it'll open up the project settings. And here you can change the name of your project. So I already have a bunch of projects in the HoloLens 2 that start with HoloLens 2. I want to be more creative and call it HL2 eyes. And package, I don't know where package name even shows up. It probably shows up on the list of apps inside of the device portal. I'm not going to worry about it now. You can change it if you want. You don't have to change any of the capabilities here. The one capability that we will have to change, you apparently can't do it from here. And I'm going to check holographic. The MRTK already enabled Windows Mixed Reality here. You don't have to worry about that. The part that I didn't really want to explain much, because this is a relatively new feature, is this new Mixed Reality Toolkit build process. So inside of build, I think here they have other stuff. So like Apex build options, which have the gaze input that we'll eventually need to check and things like that. I'm not entirely sure how the build window works, because in Holo Toolkit and the original version of Mixed Reality Toolkit, it didn't exist. So I'm just going to show you how to do it the old-fashioned way. Now that all this is set up, we can build. I'm going to make a folder called build. I like to start the build folder with an underscore so that it shows up at the top of the list. And now we just wait for it to compile. This PC has an i9, so it doesn't take too long to compile, maybe like a minute or two. As are most progress bars in Unity, this one is just totally worthless. I mean, what are you supposed to get from that? I mean, it does slowly inch back towards the end, but it's almost like it's lagging. I don't know, Unity's a very special engine. After this is done, you'll have a Visual Studio solution in here, which you can open with Visual Studio. You will need Visual Studio, by the way, to send this to the HoloLens. Unity does have remoting options, so you can stream to the HoloLens, but it's very finicky, and it's not going to work for every case. Like, something that we use a lot was just camera data will not work when you're streaming, because apparently you can't. I don't know, it just doesn't send the camera data back to Windows. I don't know if it's different on other OSs. By the way, pretty much everything about the HoloLens 2 is the same as the HoloLens 1 as far as development goes, except for this gaze input thing that we'll see in a second. The file structure and everything is the same. So for example, your videos are saved inside of Pictures Camera Roll instead of the actual videos folder. You know, those kind of quirks that you'll know of if you've used HoloLens 1 before. Visual Studio solution is done. So you just open up this solution file that comes up. And the only thing, we have to change a couple of things, but they're very minor. So in this AppX manifest, you need to change the capabilities to include gaze input, which this MRTK build window is supposed to do for you automatically, but you know, this is the old-fashioned way of doing it I'm more familiar with. And that's really all you need to do for the AppX manifest. I personally keep the builds as release, partially because release is actually more performant than debug. So this actually does affect frame rate. So if you have a really intensive app, debug will be slower. ARM you want to keep as ARM. We used to change this to x86 because the HoloLens 1 was x86, but the HoloLens 2 is ARM, so keep it like that. And then change this to device. And if your HoloLens is plugged in and it shows up here and you can see the internal storage, then it should be good to just push it to the HoloLens. I'm gonna turn mine on and make sure it's actually on. I heard it bloop, so that means it's on. So from here on out, you can just wait for it to compile. And this is another process that takes a few minutes. I find that this process takes about as long as the actual solution building takes in Unity. You want to use that as a metric for how long to wait. I'm not going to crop this part of the video out simply because some people might find value in knowing what the log actually says. I'll just leave it like here and wait for it. It goes through this compilation process and then some other compilation process, and then finally it deploys it to the HoloLens. And it's pretty good at defining which part is which. When you're seeing a bunch of random files like here, that means it's already compiling something. Something worth knowing, I guess, for development purposes, like say that you want to charge your HoloLens while it's compiling, try to multitask a little bit, you can actually run this entire compilation process, and then once it gets to the deploy step, it'll fail, but the compilation will be done already. So when you do plug the HoloLens in, it won't recompile everything, it'll just go to the deploy step and send it to the HoloLens. So you can save a little bit of time that way. Here's a second build process. And now I guess it's deploying. By the way, if you don't enable the gaze input option, what will happen is that in this eye tracking demo, nothing will move. Well, it'll move and you'll see your hands moving. Like you can still reach your hands out and they'll look fine because the hand tracking doesn't require this. But for the eye tracking demo, there's this little dot that moves around to where it thinks that you're looking, and that just won't move at all if you don't enable gaze input. So in the HoloLens 2 right now, I saw the Unity window open. Well, the HoloLens 2 actually shows this kind of weird bluish mesh, and then it makes this sparkly noise. And then it shows the Unity logo, and then it opens, and then it asks you for permissions. Like this time it only asked me if I wanted to enable my microphone, and I said yes. And now I'm seeing the actual demo in the HoloLens, which I'll record separately. But that's pretty much the entirety of the Unity part. And it just kind of works. So now I'll make a video showing what actually built HoloLens. I'll be back in a second. I'm recording on the HoloLens and I'll show you what the demo actually built. So here's the HoloLens and here's the home screen. And I'm just going to deploy it again instead of opening it from the menu. So it already did the compile part, so now it just needs to deploy it. If you look there, you'll see it says deploy. And hopefully the video recording actually captures the weird mesh shape that shows up when you push a Unity project. Or when you open basically anything that will have spatial perception. Sometimes, so here Visual Studio stopped responding and it might show a window that says this operation's taking too long. There it is. Just wait for it and it'll start. So here you see the little mesh, hopefully that shows up, made with Unity. And here's the eye tracking demo. I don't know how accurate it'll be right now because I haven't calibrated it in a while. So I'm looking at the Z in gaze, the O in commit. Also, I don't think it's adjusted correctly. The O in commits, the E in explode, the first E in select. So the little dot right now is a little bit south of what I'm actually looking at, but that's fine. So you can see it's working, and you can switch between these different demos. So I don't like this one's annoying. I mean the sphere, the Earth one works fine. So if I look at the left of it, then it'll spin that way. If I look at the right, it'll spin that way. I can look at that thing and say, come to me. Come to me. Come to me. Or don't, whatever. The voice commands are terrible on this device. Everything is good about it except the voice. Select. Select, by the way, is how you do the pinch motion without having to look at anything, or without having to do the pinching. So here you have this demo where you can move blocks. So I can say, put this. Put this. Put this. Put this. Wow. Put this. Yep, speech is really frustrating. Select. The heat map demo works fine. It's just that basically anything involving speech works horribly on both HoloLenses. Right now the eye tracking is pretty good. I'm looking at the top left logo. I'm looking at the middle one at the top. I'm looking at the bottom right one. So now it's pretty good. But yeah, these are the examples that it comes with, and if you go through that build process, hopefully it should be that simple, mostly just waiting and some minor configuration. So yeah, that's it. Good luck with this part. One more thing, after you build your project and deploy it to the device, you can run it without Visual Studio. So right now Visual Studio is not actually sending it to the device anymore, but since I've deployed it once, it'll show up in all apps now. So I think it was called Holo Test or HL2 Eyes. So this demo is the same one that I just built before. And I can press it and it'll be the same one as before. So, yeah. Just so you know that you don't have to use Visual Studio all the time. If anything, you probably want to avoid using Visual Studio as much as possible. Eye tracking is pretty good this time. I'm looking at the E in gaze, the C in commit, E in explode. It's okay now. It's really good when you keep your eyes wide open, obviously, because that's easier for the eye tracker. I'm also wearing glasses if that matters. So considering glasses usually confuse most eye trackers, I think it's pretty good. So now this is the real ending.